Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment. They're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I'm joined by my homeless friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at patreon.com/filmistines. Some recent episodes include the original Mad Max, Mad Max 2, Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, Mad Max 4, Fury Road, and the new Furiosa. And last but not least, 2015's Green Room. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas too on our Patreon. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. Come request a film. Come subscribe for $1. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we will be discussing Jeremy Saulnier's 2013 film, Blue Ruin. I just wanted to start off by saying that I enjoyed this more than Green Room. I enjoy the narrow focus, surprise, surprise, of a singular character. I like the incompetency. I like his drive. I like the visual transformation from homeless man to this everyman kind of disguise. I also enjoy the more subtle blue treatment than the crazy green we had in Green Room.
Yes.
Mostly through objects and location instead of lighting and filters. Just felt like a cleaner movie, a little more punchy, not so shock value driven, but of course, I guess this is Jeremy's signature, which is very cool. He definitely has his own flavor in that way. And I'm happy to announce that I am a Jeremy Saulnier fan moving forward. 2 for 2. Very nice. Can't wait for the next. And I don't bring it up very often, but the poster, as far as the one on the Wikipedia, I like a lot. I'm a big fan of the poster.
That's a nice poster. It's rare when we see a pretty nice one. There's decent ones, there's doable ones, but I like this one. It's pretty clever.
Yeah, there's usually an air of generic, cropped moments of, cool scenes or something kind of thing. But yeah, man, I know you liked Green Room. How did you feel about Blue Ruin?
I think I'm right there with you. I'm a fan of this movie, and I liked it a lot better than Green Room as well. I was really a fan of the pacing in this movie, which I thought I wasn't going to like, but it was just pretty crazy because you think we're going to focus on this homeless guy, but then 15 minutes in, he's already like murdering somebody in a bathroom. You're like, okay, I'm here for it. And I do agree that the story here and the editing and transitioning is very cohesive, and that just makes for better storytelling because him getting from place to place wasn't forced. It was like the natural next step for him to take. The natural next step for us to watch him take, and it was very good. I liked it. The cinematography was great. The acting was great. The storytelling, again, is so minimal, but it works. And even the score was a bit of a standout in this movie compared to Green Room. And I believe that helped tie in all these other elements. Because I think with Green Room, he was trying to do something a little different. But here, the message, the tone, the vibe of this film knew what it was. And I believe that helped make everything so cohesive.
Yeah, Jeremy had much more of an uphill battle in Green Room with basically trying to reinvent what a horror film can look like, this experimental treatment of color, having to direct and make sense of these mostly really great performances in this horror film, which is arguably a contradictory fusion.
Yeah.
And still mixed with a bunch of shocking elements, which of course we have to applaud him for, because the final piece is still very good. Green Room is very good. But I do believe storytelling can be especially powerful when its focus is much more narrow. And here we have a singular set of eyes, and they're sad and blue and desperate eyes, and he's willing to risk everything for some kind of equilibrium of justice, an eye for an eye sort of thing. He even says at some point, I think towards the end of the movie, that's 2 of my guys for 2 of yours, or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's a real explicit acknowledgement of your psyche right now, which is awesome. It's outrageous all the way through, especially on the back of someone like this character, like many characters who are so incompetent and they succeed in their ventures. But we have one instant of like cranking that 10 to 11 volume of outrageousness when the lady pulls an Uzi or something out from under the recliner. But then the movie's over. But then there's no moment to embrace the level of outrageousness we just reached.
Yeah, and another example of that kind of feeling is when they're at the diner and Dwight confesses to his sister that he killed Wade. And then she says, I'm glad he's dead and I hope he suffered. And then you have this guy say, excuse me, can I borrow the ketchup? Or actually he said, you got ketchup on yours? Which at first I thought he meant their burger. And I was like, what? But he just meant at your table, I think. But that was just a weird way of phrasing it. And then whether it was intentional or not, he proceeds to not shake the ketchup bottle before pouring it weirdly all over his food.
Some psychopaths just don't shake the bottle.
Savage. Yes, I agree. But it was kind of a moment that's like, wait, what? Like, they're over here talking about murder. She's agreeing that, yeah, I'm so glad you murdered him. I hope he suffered. And they're crying and they're just distraught. And then you have an interruption like that over ketchup. Is just, it's bizarre.
You could maybe call that a little bit of a Lynchian moment, interrupting that macabre with something mundane.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And if you're not paying attention, I was going to say, if you're not paying attention, it just throws you off. But it throws you off whether you're paying attention or not. So it's weird. And we can even see an element of this in the introduction. Because when this movie starts out, we have these clips of a cookie on a plate and the TV's on and there's this man in the bathtub. And then he hears voices and we see a family about to walk into the door. And you're like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden he jumps out the window. And it's very obvious this is not a comedy piece. But you're intrigued immediately. And again, it's kind of that like bizarreness of, wait, what is this man doing? Okay, he's homeless? What's he doing? Why was he there? But you're so captivated in everything that's going on that you can't help but to love these bizarre scenes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen a hook happen so quick in a movie where you're just like, what? And then we proceed to see the rest of his homeless routine.
And then that's when you think it's going to slow down, or it's going to be this kind of slow build up, this slow burn. But then the police come. They're like, hey, we need to talk to you. It's like, why would the police need to talk to a homeless man so kindly? It's usually like, hey, man, get out of here. Or the people at the house knew what you were up to. We need to come to the station. I don't know. but the plot keeps moving.
Yeah, there's a calmness in his temperament and where they're at on the beach and how the cop approached his car that morning. There's just a calmness about that intro part of the film, but something really profound happens in their conversation, and you realize that this man is pretty disturbed and really hung up on the past. And then the film proceeds to have this melancholic thing for the rest of the runtime. But it's kind of funny because that vibe is fused with something that may traditionally be a little more energetic and exciting, maybe John Wick-ish, or it kind of reminded me of Mr. Nobody in that way. But again, like Jeremy's other film, Green Room, we see this weird fusion and even a surprising permutation of actions too. For example, why did Dwight let the guy out of the trunk just so willy-nilly and then wanted to have a conversation with himself? I get, he's really not a super violent person out to kill everybody. He just wants some kind of justice, eye for an eye sort of justice. But I feel like any other character would have handled that a little bit differently. And then that shifts about 180 into another shocking moment when that guy gets his head blown off by Dwight's friend. But there's such a weird vibe with both of these films.
Like we said earlier in the film, there's a lot of blue here, even referenced in the title. And of course, blue means sadness. Someone's feeling blue, they're feeling sad. But there's also a lot of kind of grays and earthy tones to this movie that feeds into that calmness. And we have this calm sadness that could maybe be melancholic. Is that what melancholic is? You being okay with your sadness? I don't know. Because Dwight here is living in the past. He's being held back by his trauma, but he's totally okay with it. And he's gonna go on his revenge and he's gonna get his justice, but it doesn't start to worry him until his sister is involved. And now he's like, shit, well now I gotta make sure it happens, because even though I'm okay with living my life this way, I don't want to make my sister's life worse.
Yeah, I took that concern about them hurting his sister as these moments to try to ground Dwight and to indicate to us that he's not crazy. Just keep on reminding us that he's not crazy. He's driven and has a mission, and he's not just a psychopath.
Yeah, he's a man with a mission, and he's super resourceful. And we get glimpses of that, like him letting that guy in the trunk escape. And that moment where he could have stolen a gun, but he didn't at the store. I guess he did later on in someone's truck, but he justified that somehow. So he's got a conscience.
Yeah, when he steals that gun from the truck, it backfires on him because it's got a lock on the trigger and he can't get it open and ends up breaking the gun. And so there's this element of, oh man, when he actually commits a crime,
it backfires.
It backfires. It's like, oh shit.
And I feel like it's those transitions with him going out to get a gun, and that gun just happens to be locked, and now he's fucked and he's got to move on to the next thing, that just makes this movie so seamless and makes you ready for the next thing that this man's gonna do. Because you also have that scene where he just killed Wade and he's coming out, and what does he do? He stabs their tire to that white car they were driving, and then proceeds to go to his own car. He doesn't have his keys. Fuck, what's he gonna do? He steals their car, and that backfires on him because now he punctured his getaway ride.
What do you think about him dropping his keys in the bathroom when he killed Wade? Did they take his incompetency and sloppiness a little too far in that moment? Because I was like, oh man, that was that one thing that really kind of hung me up, man. I was just like, how the fuck did he forget the keys, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. I mean, obviously it's a plot device to get him rolling along, but he's a pretty thoughtful guy. He's resourceful. Like I said, he plans things ahead. I mean, he removes his battery from his car and puts it in a bag so it doesn't die. If he needs to go get tools, I mean, he's going to do it. So that's a situation where it doesn't make sense for his character to have forgotten the keys or to not have made sure he had his keys on him. But at the same time, he just murdered somebody.
Yeah, he's in a total heat of the moment kind
Yeah.
of thing. Even before he murdered them, he's this trailing. I'm sure the moment had already started. You know, everything was probably a blur at that point. And there was quite the struggle. I liked that it was not quick
Yeah.
in the bathroom with Wade. Jeremy does a good job at making you feel like Dwight's at risk.
Yeah, he's not a John Wick character. He's not even a Monkey Man character. His name is Dwight. You know, I don't know how many Dwights are out there, but the Dwights that come to mind for me are not strong guys. They're not action guys. They're not guys who go work out all the time. And you already made this character homeless. So, of course, he doesn't have the luxuries we have. You know, good food to get strong, the vitamins you need. If he gets sick, he's fucked. So Jeremy does a good job letting us know, hey, Dwight might or might not survive this. He might or might not make it. Like, who knows? I think my favorite sequence in the movie is when he's trying to get the arrow out of his leg. I'm not quite sure what I like about it. Is it just that he tries to do it on his own, but then he can't and he has to go to the hospital? Or is it just the kind of bizarreness? Or is it just like the cinematic shots where he's getting the saw out of the car and he's closing the door on his arrow so he can saw it off, and he goes to the store and we get the zoom in on the glue, we get the zoom in on the price, like we get these really interesting shots. And when he's paying and hands the money to the cashier, it's all like covered in blood, and it's just this kind of situation that's not great. It doesn't look good on him. All for him just to be like, fuck it, I gotta get to a hospital. Because who does that, you know? No person who's attempting to get an arrow out of their body and is committing these murders and kidnapping and whatnot, they're not about to go to a hospital. They're gonna be a badass and wrap their leg and find some way to get this done, like he was trying to do. But I really love when he comes out of the hospital. He sneaks out, of course. He doesn't want them to get his name. Probably can't pay. I don't know. Millions of reasons. And he's waddling out of the hospital in his hospital gown. And it just gave me these like apocalyptic vibes watching him do that. I don't know what it was about this whole entire sequence, but I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, that's a really great sequence. And they linger on it for several scenes. So they make it really memorable on purpose. And it helps emphasize Dwight's not a professional. He's not a professional hitman, whatever. You know, he's not done this before. I like that he thinks he's going to attempt to take it out and gives up. Yeah. That sequence is probably longer than the sequence that led to the arrow in the leg.
You're probably right.
My favorite section of the movie is the very end, actually, when Dwight's held up in the house waiting for an ambush, and the family pulls up finally after a long, quiet scene, and it's real dramatic and real outrageous. You know, we get that lady who pulls out the Uzi or whatever submachine gun that is from under the recliner, but then William pulls up with a shotgun and then blows a chunk into Dwight. But then it's shortly revealed after that William is Dwight's half brother. And it took this already melancholic film, very somber, to just goddamn heights. Because William's this constant reminder of that whole incident 20 years ago. That family's been living with them, you know, obviously the whole time. And we get this really great ending sequence of William walking away and just giving such a great performance of being over all of this, because this has just been his life for so long. How often is Wade, the one who's in prison, Wade Jr., I guess, How often is he brought up at dinner, kind of thing? How often is he reminded that he's the product of so much misery? It took the melancholy to really incredible heights in the last 60 seconds of this film. I thought that was very neat.
Yeah, it almost made Dwight's death not sad compared to everything else, compared to this family fighting for all these years and all this unnecessary death, unnecessary uprooting of people's lives, and just Dwight's fight to try to contain it. Okay, you got two of mine, I got two of yours, let's keep it there. But no, there's so much hatred and so much animosity here that is a powerful scene when he walks away and he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make the change. It's like when people finally break their cycle of generational trauma, whether it's alcohol or abuse or whatnot. It's kind of in that boat of, I'm going to do something better than the generation before me couldn't do. But now that scene when Dwight steals the car and it turns out that William was back there and he knocks and he lets him out. He's like, you don't know anything about this. Wade didn't do it. And we thought he was just like a arrogant kid or a kid just repeating back what he's always been told his whole life. But no, he actually knew something, didn't he? There wasn't a lot of cool sets or cool props or costume design. This was a very based in reality movie. But I did want to bring up the car. And I love that it had bullet holes in it. But I couldn't quite place what that meant other than this can't be good. Bullet holes are never good. Are those bullet holes reminder of the parents' death? Like, is this the parents' car and this is where they got shot up and he's constantly living with his trauma? Or is this just a sign that Dwight is always in some kind of trouble or in a wrong place, wrong time kind of place? Or did he steal this car and it just happened to have bullet holes? The last one, I don't think so, but I liked it.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. It was a family vehicle. It was registered to his sister's name, right?
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And I think that was their house, the family house, where her sister was living. And so I think that is where his parents got shot up in. And so he was, yes, literally living with his trauma, living inside of his trauma. His trauma was his outer shell, was his protection.
Damn. That's so sad. See, it's such a minimalistic story, but you can do so much with it. I mean, that's genius.
Yeah, and there's even something poetic in Dwight basically handing the car down to his half-brother.
I didn't even think about that.
Because remember, he was telling him where the car was at. The keys were in the seat or whatever. And they made that real explicit because when he was dying, he was like, the car is in the woods, the car is in the woods, or something like that.
Yeah. He did. Oh, man. That's so sad. I gotta think about this movie some more because it's really sad. It's turning out to be much sadder than I initially thought.
The presence of that vehicle is everything to this film, too. He lives in it. It houses his trauma. It ties him to his sister. It ties the family to trail him, leading them to his sister. He stores a body in it, and then it's a hand-me-down. The car is pretty essential.
And here I thought the car just looked cool with all those bullet holes. I guess the score stood out to me more in this movie than it did in Green Room. Was it because it was a more focused movie, or just that introduction immediately grabs you? I don't know, but it's very, very somber and very grim. And if you weren't sad for Dwight based on how he looked or based off of what was happening on the screen, that score just depressed you. Just think really sad music and, a homeless man. And how can that not be sad? I did see some people didn't like this movie because it lacked character development. What do you think about that? Because, excuse me, he doesn't develop, right? That's the point. He's so traumatized and stuck in the past. I'm also not sure what people mean when they say this. It could mean a variety of reasons.
Sure.
Like, was your character flat? Did you not give him enough personality and traits? Or did your character not grow as a character?
Yeah, they probably mean he didn't walk away from this in any plus or minus kind of direction. I mean, first of all, characters don't need to grow. It's character development. Character arcs are a plot device, just like using metaphors and symbolism and stylized editing and whatnot. And with any piece that's mildly well written, you could probably convince yourself that there's some kind of development. And the development here is less on character and more on something like being a drug addict, and that the only way off that train is in death. You really never get off the spiral or the ladder because certain vices and demons just take control, And sometimes death is the most positive outcome.
So what did people want? A big happy family reunion? Like, okay, maybe it would have ended where he said, you got 2 of mine, I got 2 of yours, we're done?
Yeah, I don't know.
For him to apologize? Oh, sorry, I killed him, sorry.
Because it's kind of like the Green Room, where people had a problem with the level of violence and the so-called maybe senselessly use of it, or maybe the senseless depiction of it, the frivolous kind of just
slashing for slashing's sake,
or maybe the flippant kind of use of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of stuff just smells of, well, maybe this story isn't for you.
I agree.
Because there's no prototypical way of telling a story. Some stories, some films feel like they don't have a story. But to some, that very film feels very insightful or powerful on some level to them.
Yeah, like that movie, All of Us Strangers. Didn't hit for me. Didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
But I could see why people loved it.
I don't know, it's just a case-by-case basis. You really have to, if you're going to say something as, I don't know, surface level, as there's no character development, you really need to back it up somehow. Because I'm not really sure how to take that otherwise. Because not every story needs character development. So I don't know exactly what you're saying. I don't know. That's okay. That at least indicates that you didn't like it very much. That's fine.
That's fine.
As long as you know that it's okay to like it.
Yeah.
Like other people. Other people can like it. You don't have to like it. That's cool.
But if I don't like the end, do I still like the movie?
No. It's like Dune. Dune Part 1, not a very good movie.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
But it's okay for others to like trash.
You could have said Rebel Moon. You didn't have to drag Dune into this.
No one likes Rebel Moon.
Okay.
That's the problem there.
Point taken.
All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me. I liked it quite a bit, and thank you for talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
Well, my budget guess is $5 million because Green Room was $5 million, and I feel like it had a lot less moving pieces and sets, locations. I guess it had more characters, but we had quite a bit of characters here too. We had more props. I don't know. It just gives me around the same amount of money spent.
Sure, it feels much more ambitious.
Yeah.
I feel you. Well, it says here that it was $420,000.
Holy crap.
That's an awesome
That's impressive.
budget. That's very cool.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it didn't go on to make very much, just shy of $1 million.
Oh, no. I better not hear a bunch of people on Letterboxd.
With 115,000 people on Letterboxd, they didn't go to the theater.
They didn't go to the theater. I mean, neither did we, but...
And to be fair, I'm not sure how wide released this was. This
True.
was an indie film. They weighed in at a 3.7, just like Green Room.
3.7. I don't know about that. That's pretty good. But Green Room did not feel like a 3.7. And I gave Green Room a 3, so I don't know if I would give Green Room 2.5 and this a 3, or if I would stick with my 3 for Green Room and move this up to 3.5. I'm not quite sure, but this is definitely the more sophisticated movie of the two.
Yeah, this is a solid 3 out of 5 for me. It's a very good movie and a hard recommend to everyone.
I second that. I'd recommend this to everyone.
All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/Filmistines. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, and YouTube. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gains new insights and perspectives in the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmistines, signing off.